Is it the poorest or second poorest country in the world? How does that even work? Mozambique, they read the Bible and saying the poor just like giving. Mozambique is a very, very poor country. How is it that they are donating?
Did you listen to the Hot Breakfast this morning? Here's what you missed.
You heard, Nick was reading a headline this morning. There's a ship that's docked in from Mozambique. People are asking the question, when, how, why, what, who? Yes. And all the questions in between. And Moses Kuri in between says, you know what? Kenyans die every day. You can just add this. That's like a joke gone really bad. How do you do that? So that's our topic of conversation this morning. We have Dr. Roy Mugira. He's a CEO, National Biodiversity Authority. He was on the bench a couple of weeks ago. Great interview there. And now he opened up a lot of minds. And we also have Emmanuel Atamba. He's a coordinator with Route to Food. Gentlemen, welcome to Hot 96. Karibuni sana.
Asante.
Dr. So you can confirm the ship has docked in with its GMO maize.
It isn't GMO maize, but the ship has docked from Mozambique. Mozambique is not producing GMO maize or any GM maize. The report or records that we have looked at, actually the consignment has been brought in by the World Food Program as an emergency response to the food situation within the region. So this is not coming in as trade. This is not so much talked about importation. This is an emergency intervention by the World Food Program. We have looked through the manifest, the details. We have received certificate of non-GM status that is with us. So our officers on the ground have checked on that, and we can confirm that actually the maize on deck is not GM maize.
What stopped us from harvesting and buying from our local farmers first before we import from Mozambique? And in fact, Emmanuel, you were saying you were in Eldoret last week.
Yes.
And there's we're expecting to harvest 40 million?
Around 40 million bags of maize this season. And farmers have already started harvesting. But again, if what Dr. is saying is correct, that this is basically, a donation to deal with the current food emergency, then that is a different scenario altogether. So I want to take his word that, if this is coming from the World Food Program, then basically this is really going to address with the emergency, so it doesn't really get into the market and affect the prices in the market. But of course, farmers are concerned about the overall pronouncement that within the next 6 months that we are going to import 10 million bags, which essentially really puts a big threat on their ability to sell whatever they are harvesting now.
It doesn't make sense when Kenya, which is a decently doing country in terms of economics, gets a donation from the poor. Is it the poorest or second poorest country in the world? How does that even work? They read the Bible and saying the poor just like giving.
What we look at when assessing the source of consignment is the country of origin and also the port of origin. In this case, what is the name of the port in Mozambique? Maputo, yes. So it is white maize, which is non-GMO, and our concern really as an authority is to check the status. If it is GMO, there is a clear kind of requirements if that has to be imported, particularly now with the lifting of the ban. It should be possible for any trader. But to go back a little, what have we done to facilitate potential importation, either for trade or even for emergency food aid with GM content? We have developed a very clear step-by-step process within the Kentrade platform that allows us to check safety. Remember, my authority is the National Biosafety. Sorry, Jeff, not biodiversity. Biosafety. Our role is to check on safety.
But Emmanuel, you and your organization Route to Food, you're completely against GMOs.
Yes, we are completely against GMOs, and we really stand to speak against, some of the deception that is going around. It's not that we are saying this because, we are civil society or because we are activists or because we just want to raise alarm. This is even in the National Biosafety Act that established the National Biosafety Authority. If you go to the objects, it talks about the potential risks. The objects of the National Biosafety Act, the reason why the National Biosafety Authority is formed is because GMOs are known to have potential to cause some serious risks to health, to environment, and that is why they have to be regulated. And that's why the National Biosafety Authority has to really monitor and make sure that they test and check everything that comes in, because there is that risk, and that element of risk is not something that we want to play with. We feel that there are a lot of options, there are a lot of ways to address the current food security crisis, and even the current food emergency crisis that we have now with the 4.5 million Kenyans affected. It's not because of seeds. It is not because of agriculture production. It is purely a question of economic access. It is purely a question of unequal access to economic opportunities, unequal access to infrastructure. If you look at the road networks in this country, if you just go to any map and look at the road networks, you will realize that areas that are affected by food insecurity have the least road network. It's not a coincidence. The questions of making sure that people have the opportunity to grow their own food, to participate in economic activities that can sustain them, these are the issues that are affecting us. And this is why, even here in Nairobi, when it's raining all over, there are parts in Nairobi where people cannot even have sukuma wiki. They cannot afford tomatoes. Yet it's raining here. So what makes it different for someone in Karen who has enough, and even some stored in the fridge, and someone just across in Kibera who is basically struggling to feed their children? It is a question of economic opportunities. It's a question of equitable distribution of food. That is the problem. So GMOs are not a solution. And as Dr. has rightly said, GMOs come with a whole manner of, bureaucracies and processes. Now, everything that has to come, now he has to go and check in Mombasa. They have to confirm, is it GMO, is it not GMO? I mean, we didn't have those problems 1 month ago. Now, after he confirms at Mombasa, he also has to tell us where those packets were distributed. Did they get to Kisumu? If they got to Kisumu, did someone repackage to the last user? We have to monitor GMOs to the plate.
In 2000, Kenya signed the Cartagena Protocol to become state party. In fact, I have a photograph of the late former president, Daniel Arap Moi, signing onto that. Before that, we negotiated the protocol. So the discussions started early. We started preparing early. But I want to agree with my colleague here that indeed we've got some work to do, particularly on the aspects of public education and public awareness. Even among our technocrat levels, you will find very, very, very scaring levels of low levels of awareness or having the wrong information. And that is something that we need to get out to do as we step out with the application of this. But going back a bit, in 2009, we enacted the Biosafety Act. In 2010, we established the authority. In 2011, we published 3 regulations. 1, to guide how you do business in the labs and the contained areas. 2, on how you do environmental release if you're going to plant these things outside in the farms or wherever. And 3, export, import, and transit. If you want to import, if you want to export, if you want to transit, what do you do? And then we also published in 2012 a regulation on labeling, which I think Emmanuel has touched on, and I agree with him, with especially the technical difficulties of ensuring that which has been labeled in Nairobi at a milling plant as GM, does it transform on its way towards Kakamega, towards Nyeri, and turn? That it will require some infrastructure to follow that through. But so we did the labeling regulations. Then shortly after that, the ban.
Various countries that have GM, how is this affecting them in their markets of origin?
We have been following through. Actually, there is a platform under the Cartagena Protocol called the Biosafety Clearing House. every decision that we make as a state party, we have to upload it in that platform. If I wanted to find out what GMOs are approved in Argentina, for example, I'll only need to log into that platform, and I'll tell you this soybean, this, and a crop versus an event. Soybean resistant to herbicide, canola resistant to insects. You know, it is all there. So we started by checking what is happening elsewhere, and we have had experience of up to 25 years to date since when the first GM technology products were entered the market in the US.
But Daniel, I mean, some people were saying the lifting of the ban was done too quickly. Do you think there's pressure from outside the country maybe, or
basically asking Kenyans what is their willingness to consume GMOs? Majority of Kenyans are not willing to consume GMOs. And if you look at the patterns of willingness considering other factors, you will see that there is a clear pattern of vulnerability to persuasion. Then, if you go to something else which Dr. has touched on, the issue of information. About 82% of the Kenyans who are surveyed, this was done by Infotrack, completely independent survey, basically with 8,000 respondents. So basically, 82% of the people who say that are aware about GMOs did not get the information from government. So Dr. Mugira has not been the one informing the Kenyans about GMOs. So people are getting the information from social media, from other sources. Now, Bill Gates was here the other day claiming that all the bread he has been eating is genetically modified. I mean, it's a lie, because basically, as he's saying, only 25 years now. How old is that guy? I mean, has he been eating, is he 25 years old? So, the things that Kenyans are being told, most of them are lies. And Dr. will agree with me, there is a lot of misinformation from both ends. That, the people who are proposing GMOs are saying that this one will take 3 months to grow, that this will give you more grains, that this will grow even in Turkana. We have had people making those statements. And even what Waziri Kuria said, I would really want to feel that, Moses Kuria is one of the smartest people in this country, because there are only 21 people in cabinet, and he's one of them. So he's definitely genius level among in this population. So I would really want to feel that what he said is actually correct, that GMOs has the potential to cause harm and could potentially kill anyone or kill someone. And how he said it might be wrong, but what he said is not wrong, because there are risks associated with it. So these are the issues that we want, to really come out in the open. And when Dr. is talking about regulations, the regulations I've read the National Biosafety Act, I've read all the laws that they have done. Of course, they are similar to what other countries that have national biosafety laws in Africa have. So begs the question, who is making the laws for African countries on their food? It is not us, it is not Africans. Because how can his National Biosafety Act and regulations be similar to those ones in South Africa? So is he the one who made them? The questions we are asking. You see, there is a lot of influence from outside, and we feel that this was very rushed, and public participation was not done. This is something that you have to consult with people. Today, Jeff, some of my friends from the Luya region are not even eating the packed ugali. Some of them have refused up to now. They are saying that is not real ugali.
They're saying we are not safe.
So now, if they have not accepted the packed ugali yet, now you are trying to tell them now we are bringing GMOs again into the market. They will completely stay at the Kisiagi. They will never come out of the portion mill to trust anything that comes from the supermarket. And the millers have to be with us when we are talking about this, because this is going to affect their businesses. So today, people are looking at the packed unga with very keen eyes, because they are suspecting it. Even those ones who are just genuinely doing conventional maize are now being suspected, because Dr. Mugira has not proven that he has the capacity to actually monitor what we are saying to the last packet, to make sure that there is maximum compliance. And that is something, as you said, requires a lot of infrastructure and a lot of investment.
Dr. Mugira, you have to admit public participation has been very, very, close to nil.
When we assess a commodity, for example, BT maize or BT cotton, we do it on a case-by-case basis. So you will not expect a platform that we are saying, hey guys, GMO ni mzuri ama si mzuri. We speak of a very, very specific kind of crop and trait combination, so that we don't mix up and say in their generalities. You remember, Jeff, as I was illustrating earlier, hakuna kitu ile ati GMO ndio hiyo inakuja kama like an animal coming from the bushes. Hakuna, there is no conglomerate called GMO. It is a very specific crop versus a trait to address a specific need. For example, insect tolerance, drought tolerance, and all those characteristics. So when we therefore take it through, we conduct public participation by publishing our intention to release that on at least 2 newspapers of nationwide circulation, and then we invite the public to give their views. We also do on online. In fact, when at the advent of COVID, when we couldn't come together, we established a platform where one can send by WhatsApp, say what you think. And some people have just posted, sitaki, I don't want it, nimbaya, ugonjwa, cancer, and so on. We collect all that information, and the decision that is arrived at must be scientifically backed. So all that is analyzed, including socioeconomics. So we do not have that blanket public participation over the general subject of GMO. We do it on a case-by-case basis. When the ban was instituted, there wasn't any public participation, but we also appreciate that it came out of an alarm, out of a publication that Emmanuel is aware of, that was purporting to show a connection between feeding mice with the GM maize with the development of tumors. And that story of the publication is out there. The publication was found that the science was not adequate, and it was pulled down. Now, the action that was taken by the cabinet then in 2012, and the guidance of then cabinet minister, the Honorable Beth Mugo, when she was in charge of public health, was the right decision to do. That is what I would have done if I was in her place. She came and told cabinet that here is information that these products are causing trouble. So the reaction of cabinet again was to ban. Now a task force was established, and they did their report. Without going to the details, did the lifting come too quickly? I think that's a question that has come. Progressively, since 2012, we have been addressing the 5 areas that were identified by the task force of capacity building. And the cabinet has been relaxing kidogo kidogo over the time. The first relaxation was the approval of BT cotton. The second was the allowing importation by especially animal feed millers to bring in material that is up to 0.99% GM. Of course, small content, but again progressively. Then faced with the conditions that we have, opinion was sought, we gave opinion, and we were able to demonstrate that we have reached sufficiently acceptable levels of meeting the 5 capacity building requirements that were identified by the Kihumbo, the Euro task force.
Kenyans have spoken on social media, on all the platforms. Kenyans have spoken, and they have said that they are not comfortable with the lifting of the ban, and they want that decision to be revised. And this is something that the government should consider, because the next election, this can be the issue in the next election. I mean, if people are caring about, looking forward, I mean, this could be the issue. This could be it.
Do you feel like maybe we politic too much? Imagine you're already talking about the next election.
No, I'm just saying this could be it. You see, the problem with this is the kind of exaggerations that have been there. If you look at the president's social media account, when he communicated the decision to lift the ban, says that this maize is going to be early maturing, is going to yield better, is going to be drought resistant. Those are all lies. Now, if it goes ahead, they have lifted the ban, and then people are given the seeds, and then they plant the seeds, and then they don't see the things they were told. You know what that does to your political capital? And that's why I'm saying it's not, food is political.